Here at What's It Like, we've already covered 10 of the best Switch ports on the Nintendo Switch. But 2023 saw a bunch of incredible ports released as well, that pushed the console hardware to its absolute limits. There were some ports like Batman which unfortunately didn't make the cut in their current state, but I am keeping my eyes on them to see if they get updated and fixed to make it on our next list. Some of these ports did come out before last year as well, but we had a few reader suggestions to take a look at. Enough with the preamble, let's take a look at 10 more amazing Switch ports. Before we take a look at these 10 amazing Switch ports, would you mind liking and subscribing? And you know what? If you like the video, feel free to share it with your friends. It's the best way that creators like me get found on YouTube, and I can't thank you enough for doing so. Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors is a prime example of how having solid mechanics in a game trumps flashy graphics. The Switch port of Vampire Survivors is a well-executed and well-thought-out port that includes couch co-op, all the expansions, and excellent controls. The addictive gameplay loop is perfect on handheld, with sessions only lasting 30 minutes per run, or less if you're unlucky. And it's a fantastic game to play while on the train or waiting for an appointment. The best part is that developer Ponkel is constantly updating the game with expansion packs and free updates to expand the game out. And to make that deal even sweeter, you can purchase the entire package for under $10 Australian. I gave Vampire Survivors a 90 out of 100 when I reviewed it on launch, stating, "Vampire Survivors may not look like much on the outside, but for those who look past the 8-bit sprites, there's an engrossing and addictive game that will constantly keep you coming back for more, and is definitely worth more than the affordable price of entry." Company of Heroes. Okay, I know I rave on about Company of Heroes, but I honestly believe that both the game and the Switch port are absolutely phenomenal. The port, which was handled by Feral Interactive, is a masterclass in how it should be done. Its pixel-perfect performance, bug-free gameplay, and competitive price point are more than enough to justify the purchase. But Feral went one even better by completely overhauling the controls to adapt the game to console controls. You can select groups and issue orders with just a few simple taps, allowing you to take command on the battlefield when things turn south. And they always do. I was blown away by this port, awarding it a 92 out of 100, saying, "Company of Heroes strategically captures your attention with its epic scope of the campaign, near unlimited skirmish mode, and quality of life improvements that make commanding a battalion on the go a breeze." Couple this with the inclusion of 2 huge and varied expansions, pixel perfect performance, and a very reasonable price point, it's safe to say that Company of Heroes is a victory for the team that ported it at Feral Interactive. This is not a hurried port for some quick cash, but a carefully designed and well thought out opportunity to introduce a new generation of commanders to this revered game. Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy is similar to No Man's Sky in the sense that it's almost an impossible port. Portkey Games managed to move the entire Hogwarts Legacy game over intact with only a few compromises when it comes to loading into new areas. The port is exceptional, it runs great, it looks magical, and it immerses players into the world of witches and wizardry. Somehow, the performance has been further optimized since launch, smoothing out some technical issues and frame rate dips that were surprisingly only very noticeable in one specific area. My Hogwarts report card had this to say on launch: "Hogwarts Legacy is a wondrous experience on the Switch, and Portkey Games has conjured some very powerful magic here to make it happen. The performance, scope of the world, and incredible cast of richly written characters make it an absolute joy to play. Yes, there are compromises, but none that took away from completely drawing me into this world of wonder. From learning spells with cheeky classmates to soaring above the castle on a broomstick, Portkey Games have lovingly created a very magical experience that you can now play in the palm of your hands." Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 had a somewhat rocky lead up to launch. Rumours of a ridiculous install size, no gameplay footage, and almost zero marketing made gamers believe that Borderlands 3 was just not going to be good. Thankfully, we were wrong, and after a 6-hour round trip through some intense Australian bushland, I managed to get my hands on a physical copy. The port was actually very well done, except for the price point, and it ran at a smooth frame rate that included all of the content from the other consoles' releases. The only compromise was it could only feature 2 players instead of 4, which did in a sense disrupt the multiplayer mechanics a bit. I was going to skip Borderlands 3 initially on release due to the heavy lineup of titles that month, but the rumour mill and misinformation made me think checking it out would be a good idea. And I'm so glad I did, because there's a lot of game, guns, and glory to be had with Borderlands 3. It's a vibrant and unapologetic balls-to-the-wall shooter with sharp shooting and even sharper wits that's entertaining in both story and gameplay. The price point did sting worse than a Scorpion rack, but that pain is lessened by a complete package that performs very well on the Switch. For people who are a fan of the series, then this game will be a great addition to your collection. But with its limited multi-features, Borderlands 3 is a slightly less social experience on the Switch, and probably best suited for solo players on the go. Remnant from the Ashes. Remnant from the Ashes is a hidden gem on the Switch. The port came out much later than the initial release on other systems and may have been overlooked by many gamers at the time of release. It's a shame because Remnant expertly builds tension in a world where tree-like creatures have overrun humanity, and you skulk through subways, travel to different worlds, and fight for your very survival in this Souls-like experience. The gameplay is amazing with tight combat, easily picking off enemies from afar and then hacking and slashing when they get close. But you can also easily get overwhelmed by the enemies, and you will die a lot. The port runs incredibly well and looks and performs great, with highly detailed environments and a variety of enemies. World bosses lumber around as they tower over you, and swarms of enemies chase you down through the wreckage of sprawling cities. The best part? The game has a competitive price point that can be played online with co-op. While I know Souls-like games aren't for everyone, if you're looking for your next challenge, you can't go wrong with Remnant from the Ashes on your Nintendo Switch. Diablo Eternal Collection. Say what you will about Diablo 3 and the Diablo 2 remaster, but there's no denying that they are perfect for handheld gameplay on the go. Both games have great performance and content parity with their PC and other console counterparts, and are regularly updated, including seasonal content. Much like the other console ports, Diablo's controls are tight and allow for quick riff runs or dungeon dives on the go. Graphics are sharp and the loot, well, on D3 anyway, drops like there's no tomorrow. You can play online with friends or even couch co-op at home with up to 4 players. Both games are classic games that you always seem to return to here and there, and I highly recommend picking up the Eternal Collection when it's on sale, scoring hundreds of hours of gameplay for less than $30 Australian. Dragon's Dogma. One of the most underrated and underappreciated original IPs Capcom has ever produced. Dragon's Dogma is an open world epic with a world like Skyrim, combat like Shadow of the Colossus, and the most unique mechanic in its pawn system. Players can upload their pawn sidekick to the servers for other players to use, and then re-download them with the knowledge of what they experienced with others, allowing them to identify weaknesses of enemies you haven't faced yet, giving your team an advantage in battle. The port runs well and looks incredible, somehow managing to fit the entire world of Dragon's Dogma on the Switch. It has a competitive price point, and I highly recommend it to anyone who loves a medieval adventure. You'll spend hours just exploring lush forests of this world, or fighting your way through hordes of goblins, undead, and even huge monsters that you can climb onto and hack away at. It's an epic adventure, and the pawn system takes it to another level. Considering it regularly goes on sale, it's a hard game to pass up on. Ark. The journey for Ark to be on this list is incredible. It was actually considered to be the worst port to ever grace the Nintendo Switch, with awful graphics and terrible performance, and it just simply did not work. Critics were quick to say that there was no chance a game of this scope would ever run on the Nintendo Switch during its lifetime. But 4 years later, after being rebuilt from the ground up, Ark now runs and looks incredible on the Nintendo Switch. Our recent review finishes by stating that ultimately, Ark Survival Evolved is now an incredible experience on the Nintendo Switch, addressing all the complaints that players had on launch. It looks and runs great, it has all the content that the other systems have, and has a reasonable price point, especially for those who pick it up on sale. Sure, it took 4 years to get to this point, but the dev teams behind Ark Survival Evolved on Switch should be applauded for taking the time to rebuild the engine from the ground up to make this possible. While critics and gamers were right to think it was an impossible task, Wildcard and Grove Street Games have managed to pull off an incredible feat. Factorio. Factorio is hands down one of the most in-depth and addictive games I have ever had the joy of playing. It's one of those games where you sit down to play it and then wonder where your weekend went. The theme behind the gameplay is automation and factory production. You start by mining coal with a pickaxe, and once you establish yourself, you will have automated assembly lines producing all manner of handy items, with the ultimate goal of building a spaceship and taking off from the desolate world you're stranded on. You aren't alone though, as ant-like aliens will be drawn towards the noise your setups will produce, making it essential to automate ammo production to feed your defensive turrets. The port for this complex game is handled very well, with a point-and-click interface helped along with some handy button shortcuts. It performs well despite the incredible amount of activity that can happen on screen, and you will find yourself constantly trying to improve your automations in this highly addictive construction simulator. The devs have never put the game on sale on either Switch or PC, but rest assured, you will certainly get your money's worth with this game regardless. Recfest. Recfest is a spiritual successor to the Flatout series, with the exception of Flatout 3, which was terrible. Bugbear Entertainment created Recfest to fulfill all petrolheads' desires to smash their way through mud and tarmac courses, drive lawnmowers, and smash with the best of them in demolition derbies. The physics engine behind this game is outstanding, and there's nothing better than sliding around a corner in a perfect drift and running your opponents off the track. The port of Recfest on Switch runs really well considering the amount of carnage on screen, and it looks amazing too with its detailed damage model. The environments are stunning, and the variety of both courses and cars manage to keep Recfest fresh and exciting. There's all the DLC on Switch as well, which can be purchased separately, that appears on other consoles, but even the base version of the game has plenty to do. So if you're looking to just dip your toes in some hectic racing, you can. The game has a decent price point and also goes on sale a bit. Now, while there are a lot of racing games on Switch, you can't go wrong by adding one more to your collection with Recfest. So there you have it. 10 more amazing ports for you to check out on your Nintendo Switch. Have you played any of these? Or have I missed your favorite port on both of my lists so far? Let me know and I'll check it out. I do want to make a note from my previous article and video that a lot of people did recommend I try Dying Light. Unfortunately, it's been banned in Australia and delisted from the eShop, making physical copies a premium at the moment, and it's just out of my budget. So when my channel gets more established, I will definitely track a copy down and give it a go. I really appreciate your input. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Because of amazing people like you, What's It Like is now my full-time job. I also do want to do a special shout out to my Patreons, S Hill, K Skip, and D Kite. I couldn't have done it without your support. Thank you.